would have been very accepting of the fact, and if Freddie had wanted to call it a day there and then and just enjoy his last few years in as much privacy and quiet as he could get, they would have absolutely understood and have been at peace with that. But being Freddie, of course, he chose the other option. And if you think about it, perhaps it's easier to understand why. I mean, when your whole life, your whole identity as a person is built around the fact that you are this incredibly charismatic and unique stage performer, to be told that actually you can't go on a stage anymore is maybe worse than death itself, maybe a kind of a living death, a small death. But while we're here, I'm not Freddie who's ill, I'm Freddie Mercury, lead singer of Queen, and we're going to make a great Queen album.
Freddie's lack of acknowledgement of his illness at the time, I'm sure that people who work with HIV and the charities that you know, help battle against it probably found that frustrating, that he didn't basically come forward and tell people what they already knew or confirm what people were assuming. But what you have to bear in mind is that, I mean, at that time, Freddie was dealing with something that basically meant the end of his life.
According to Brian May, that was when Freddie was his happiest in the last few years. Because in the studio, there was no time to talk about all the other stuff, no time to feel sorry for him. He wouldn't tolerate that kind of behaviour towards him. It was, let's get on.
I mean, he worked right up to the very end, you know, literally the very end. There was times where he could only sort of sing a line at a time in the studio, and it was very special, you know, obviously for the band, because they wanted to put another album together, and obviously their good friend, you know, part of the family, really.
There wasn't a sympathy vote. It was literally, is this stuff any good? Do I want to buy it? Do I want to hear it? Do I want to play it? And the answer, you know, spectacularly was yes.
Queen worked really hard. I think it's the only band in history which each member's wrote a #1 or had a single in the charts over the career.
By the time you get to the last few years when Freddie's ill, these things are now put into perspective. These things are no longer an issue. It's all about making the most of what time they had left, not knowing how much time they had left, whether this would be the last thing they'd ever do.
On November 23rd, 1991, after months of intense speculation about his health, Freddie requested a statement to be made to the press, confirming that he was suffering from AIDS. Just over 24 hours later, at the age of 45, Freddie Mercury died at his Kensington home, bringing to an end one of the great musical careers.
His death actually brought a lot of people together and made people wonder more about what this disease was. And obviously the remaining members of Queen, because of their personal investment in it, played a crucial part and role in the whole thing in trying to promote understanding.
With his incredibly powerful singing voice, charisma and deep bond with fans, together with his remarkable talent as a songwriter and inimitable style, it is hard to imagine there ever being another Freddie Mercury. A one-off entertainer, he has left behind an unrivaled body of work that continues to delight and inspire audiences, old and new.
The big difference with Freddie to any other rock star, the different facets. He'd got so many sides. He'd got the voice, he'd got the rock star, big, strong voice. He'd got a big image, bigger than any other rock star. He was a fantastic pianist and musician, which not all rock stars are. So there's so many sides to Freddie Mercury, and of course the songwriting. He wrote some of the greatest songs ever written in popular music. So that's why Freddie was as good as Freddie was.
And even though he's the most unlikely looking pop star, rock star, you know, he's got this guy's short hair and a moustache wearing a yellow top. It's, on paper that shouldn't really work, but he's got a completely innate charisma. This guy is utterly charismatic, you know. In a way it shouldn't be at all, but charisma's not what you look like, it's just what you are like.
As a frontman, Freddie Mercury wasn't really your archetypal, you know, wasted waif, pretty boy singer. He may have been a bit more like that in the early 70s when Queen first began, But by the time, you know, you get to the 80s, particularly after Live Aid, when the group are at this sudden brand new plateau in terms of famous stardom, a guy like that shouldn't be prancing around the stage as though he was 18 years old and a ballet dancer. But Freddie did. You know, Freddie didn't give a shit.
You always got the impression that he wasn't taking himself seriously. Going back to what I was saying about, you know, rather pompous, strutting bands. You didn't get the feeling of that with Freddie Mercury. He knew what it was about. It's about entertainment in the end.
I think the thing with Freddie, whenever he performed live, whether it was in front of, you know, 100 people, if it was in front of 225,000 people, for everybody who was in the audience, he made that one person, you know, feel special for 2 hours.
One of the things you notice when you watch any live performance with Freddie Mercury is he uses every inch of stage. And there's no part of the stadium, no matter how huge it is, doesn't feel involved. And that's what makes him likable. That's why Mick Jagger as well, you know, you feel that, you know, they care about what you think about them and whether you're enjoying yourself. And Freddie Mercury did that in spades.
Freddie Mercury was probably the most willing superstar there's ever been. He changed his name to Mercury. What are you going to do with a name like Mercury? Be a superstar. He wore yellow jackets, he wore spandex. Everything to excess. He was convinced he was going to be the best, and he was.
He was a peacock, you know. Once he was on stage, that was it. It was, right, I'm here for 2 hours, you're going to watch me. Everything I say or do, you're going to sort of listen, and you're going to take note, and you're going to get involved, and when I want you to sing, you're going to sing. Perhaps
there's just a bit of Freddie Mercury in us all, and I'm sure Freddie would have liked to have put a little bit more in some of us as well, but there's something about Freddie Mercury which spoke to us, which is, no, I'm not perfect, and neither are you. Yes, I think a lot of myself, and so do you. But aren't these songs marvellous? Don't you enjoy singing them with me? And aren't we having a grand time today? And how little do we care what anybody else thinks?